Yeah, good. All right. First office politics start with passing momentum GOP getting on board financial timeline 16 Obama's one great packing for Senate to recover the breakthrough puts the treaty on the path for ratification. The committee approved the treaty. The administration hopes ratification will take place before midterm. The Republicans have been swayed by it could be dangerous in the midterm by but despite the arguments and increasingly harsh atmosphere, less more uncertain they can command 67 votes in Capitol is key of BBC 49. There will be dangerous fighting Senate. Obama needs at least 8 Republican senators will either win over the 8. Obama will need to obtain ratification this year. He will use up all this political capital to obtain ratification. Republicans will be back in the seats taking into account practical ideas that is most of the Republican Party knew. Senators will be even more conservative. And the plan cost capital Rodriguez 10. Failure to adjust admission never suggested that it gives rise to states is complicating and representing in different constituencies can contribute to do so. The great legislative cumbersome legislative process requires passing the number of gated achieving consensus Congress may be sensitive to a strong bias in public opinion against increasing migration levels. Political housing can high benefit tend to be low given beneficiaries and analysis and therefore no voters even if some legislation tends to be political game migration debates historically have been protracted and not conducive to formation of consensus and start. Failure destroys U.S.-Russia relations. Call it 9. As Obama said, the U.S.-Russia relationship progress and nuclear weapons must be a top priority. Improved cooperation will greatly benefit on no other issue to so much as on the agreement rate of START expires without a successor. There will be no legal mechanism for controlling arsenals. Uncertainty breeds mistrust from either U.S. or Russia can afford now in order to respect or might achieving their goals much more difficult than that. Solves every single impact Co and 2K. And that any significant instability, all of which against Russia today unprecedented nuclear danger, the most widely acknowledges for all of the factor accident and calculations to tell them that the Russian military credit version will also make with it. Thousands of weapons that come to power. Russia lost 1,000 weaponry, hair trigger technology, and human weapons are increasingly dangerous. Accident or knowledge and national problems we solve without Russia and Balkans, Caspian, China, Iraq, and Prolotha. Environment and terrorism, the outcome will depend on how Russia is treated by the U.S., whether it's treated wisely or bully topicality. Interpretation of the topic specifies expand beneficiary eligibility for visas, which refers to eligibility requirements which currently apply to all visas that are 10. Such requirements, the outcome waive any of the requirement or subset of the requirements for that particular visa. Department of State 10, no visa shall be issued to the allowed the consular office. Note that under Section 2012, planning of all visas class below, these are eligible for health-related, criminal, security grounds, public charge, labor certification, illegal entrance, illegal violators, documentation, eligibility for citizenship, aliens previously removed, miscellaneous, and this is predictable. For example, the public doesn't charge requirement for it doesn't apply for E4 visas, USCS 07. Special immigrants available to Afghan and Iraqi individuals who work as translated ground improvement stability relating public charge shall not apply. Violation as the affirmative is not expand beneficiary eligibility for one of the categories that had a new category of visas should vote negative for a few reasons. One is limits our interpretation allows the act to expand eligibility through any of the 10 categories and their subsets plus the entire number topic allowing the affirmative to also change the requirements within any particular visa allows for literally hundreds of new apps to make and negative search for unmanageable. 2 is predictable ground allowing the app to change the requirements for specific to a particular type of visa functionally allows them to create entirely new visa categories. For example, they could eliminate the temporary seasonal worker requirement on issue, which would fundamentally change the nature of that visa to make it unpredictable. We can never prepare to debate that. Next office overshoot BA. Immigration is declining with the U.S. fertility rates. Alex 9 declining the U.S. birth rates coincide with downturn in the economy. Last year, birth rate and decline nationwide. Children are the most expensive decline due to long-term growth. Primary wages, families are losing jobs. Recent drop in immigration may be attributing to the decline in birth rates. And birth rates from new immigrants is the most important factor for population consumption spike globally causes extinction. Catalan is 10. U.S. population is growing. No end inside many of the births would not occur were not for high levels of net immigration. The U.S. progressed to 438 million. 82% of the increase will be due to immigrants adding more people or reducing per capita. America no longer be able to feel itself, let alone boast of which flat for experts who do not offer a different demographic path. Will you continue trampling our present for sustainable future of the survival prospect for the species? Many scientists believe civilization as we know it may unravel. And next up is the counterplan text. The Attorney General of the United States should grant a waiver of ineligibility that spouses and unmarried children under the age of 21 and lawful permanent residents do not count toward the top line greater visas for that area. The Attorney General should make an international announcement that the waiver will be offered to all applicants and mandate that it is arrived at a relevant application, and the Attorney General has the authority to waive aliens and without application. Department of State 10 the aliens who are ineligible for allocation may be eligible for a waiver. Attorney General may make accumulation if it is in the national interest to do so, and that's binding law for a Congress that's preferred with the Attorney General. The Congress Act deal with immigration matter determining and ruling the Attorney General with respect to all laws in question shall be controlling the Attorney General's decision and not binding on the DHS officers and immigration judges. The Attorney General maintains unfettered power to all illegal immigration measures. Case debate. U.S. growth will slow, but not reach a depression, sameness, and the economic process periodically saw the Great Depression in the last decade, inflation of the 70s, the stock market, even if the present slump deepens, it won't approach the Great Depression. The crisis marks the end of the economic era for a quarter of the century. U.S. economy evident from the side effects of high inflation, the larger causes of this prolonged prosperity and permissive attitudes practices inspired many Americans became convinced prices can only go up. Bubbles while the end of the recession recovery won't ensure a return to previous rates of economic growth, and emerging economies have decoupled from the U.S. industry jobs and consumers. Brush 10. Emerging economies are straining their margins to economic powerhouses. China and India are on an economic path that are relying on less supporting U.S. customers and decoupling is real spending, health and bill, growing industries, creating jobs, consumers, emerging markets, institutions, steering clear from masses and the middle class have been rising dramatically throughout the world. Developing countries accounted for 45% of world GDP. Emerging markets are going to lead the way out of the recession, and claims of S&T shortages of room desire for profit should be stacked all their elements, held on 3. The powers of pronouncement of shortage in American science and engineering were based on simplistic demographic promotion. Businesses and academics are always advancing their short-term businesses to the economic downturn. Few, if any, market indicators signaling shortages remain steady. Example from the NS at the Census Bureau, the BLS, and found that neither earning nor unemployment is science and engineering shortage. In most of the science and engineering shortage, the available data shows significant numbers of highly skilled workers with extensive postgraduate education, and economic growth makes conflict escalation likely. Bomber 10. Economic growth appears to increase the resolve to stand against challengers. Willingness to escalate disputes, higher rates of GDP are positively significantly related to most severe international conflict theories. From crisis scarcity perspective, exponent foreign power linking to growth and wars, different theory explains states supported better behavior, engaging in war would see exacerbate domestic crises unless victories were practically assured. Existing states focus on samples of countries that are most developed, not economic data states, have a higher willingness to fight after enjoying multiple years of recent economic growth, and that risk nuclear conflict. Goals principles in 7 great power wars will occur. The biggest cost of selection will be in someone else aboard the risk of nuclear escalation is precisely the reason Americans should keep its military force at home, and interdependence and nukes don't prevent war. Guilt, but 81 nuclear weapons is not more from the possibility of war. Limited contingencies with the level of threat of nuclear war. All too frequently, interdependence will not bring an end to the war while states will prepare to advance their interests at the expense of others. Levels of interdependence can have a destabilizing effect if markets become concerned with the loss of autonomy, access to resources, and interdependence causes war. Cold 96. Economic interdependence heightened the likelihood of war. States concerned about this able security will dislike independence soon. Since assets is crucial and important goods could be cut off during a crisis, states have an increased incentive to go to war, ensure themselves continue access to supply. They may control. They extend political control the source of the supply, giving rise to the conflict. Political concerns driven by anarchy must be injected in liberal calculus and slow growth will still. Okay. And no U.S.-China war ban. No aid. Beijing seems to intend on 20 its often heard power to enhance its cloud. The PRC's military program seemed directed at creating a credible deterrence against America's capability to remain far greater than the PRC. Last even more well today, the U.S. with the U.S. controls with whole carrier groups. America's nuclear missiles much bigger, more sophisticated, more deadly than China. Beijing might confront with the U.S. The critical question is over what. There is nothing in China's long history that success overarching ambitions ready to make global aggression and initiate real war and threat. Futures no, just catching up with the daunting task. The PRC wouldn't match America until 2020. Even then, Beijing wouldn't be a strong taking aggressive action against the U.S. homeland independency. The U.S. possesses effective nuclear deterrent against any imaginable Chinese missile force, and Russia is not a military threat to the U.S. No war. Pena 6. The U.S. no longer faces serious military challenge until Russia comes close to having capability that is now observed status with NATO. Even if Russia were to change course and adopt a more hostile position, is not a position to challenge itself either economically or militarily. And what? Skip the next one. Alright. And HIV will stop causing AIDS within 60 years and transmission already slowing. Log habit 7. An international team of studies says the virus is causing AIDS substantially weakened since the onset. Researchers theorize the virus could cause something in 60 years. HIV's ability to replicate decreasing human population capacity of the virus to reproduce itself inside human cells has declined. Studies of the recent tables were revealed likely to spread and infected or be transmitted. That economic growth makes warming inevitable. Cohen 10. Business as usual and pleasurable about the economic growth will decline carbon emissions. U.S. carbon dioxide will fall 0.6% as the Russian cuts. Demand for coal used to generate electricity to correct the anthropogenic warming seems clearly shrink the economy. Total CO2 emissions in the U.S. increased from overall 1980 to 2007. The overall increase was due to growth and encouraged despite efficiency gains. To keep both economic growth and reduce emissions did not seem possible. The overall historical trends absolutely prove the assumption of tech progress also is retarded. Effects made progress in extinction. To delay 40 cells mean extinction. All the coastal lands we lost much productive farmland, billions of data. Whereas most sometimes are rather the sea, the more active worms, the resistance tens of billions of methane is already underway. The PE, the normal maximum A. The end will list to the present view. More cards for me. And U.S. growth fuels terrorism, wealth, and prosperity are symbols of evil to poverty-stricken economic terrorism. Ultra 8. The terrorists who motivated to destroy the economy's wealth and prosperity symbolize the evil of the Islamist adversary. An attack on New York destabilizes the country's entire economic machine. The open and widening gulf between the rich and the poor suggests this leads to violence. The Twin Towers were the machine of the U.S. economy trade center. India has been the focus of the media's economic gains and emergence at the cost of the disaffected underclass. This includes the neglected Muslim community, economically disenfranchised and increasingly radicalized. And that's global nuclear war. Speed 6 in terms of tackling nuclear weapons. We would have saying there would be immense political pressure to retaliate with nuclear weapons, triggering full-scale nuclear conflict. And AIDS is no longer a threat to human survival and independence. Having AIDS has lost much of its atomic power thanks to extraordinary events in medicine. AIDS has been converted from fatal illness and something people live with rather than die from. Improved treatments have much of control of the British medical system. Celebrate the development of new class drugs that can tackle hard to treat patients crucial in the worldwide battle against drug resistance, which is essential to curb the spread of disease and impacts empirically denied. Russia's economy is endemically weak and has been wrecked many times. Freeman 9. Russia's been an economic wreck for most of history. Geography of Russia has weaknesses. Geography, daunting and demographics has all concerned against the problems they had with intrinsic economic weakness. The Soviet Union was uneconomic and fallen as well. Economic dysfunction was accepted as the inevitable price of strategic power.
Okay. Status of the counterclaim?
Conditional.
Okay.
Alright, I have a quick question about your start dissent.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so why is Obama key? It seems to me like if GOP likes plan, if GOP likes start, if they want to pass it, they're going to pass it. Who gives a shit about immigration?
I don't think that's true at all, but I guess there were a few different questions there.
Yeah.
First, why is Obama key? Our BBC evidence indicates that the only way we can convince the 8 remaining Republican senators we need to ratify the treaty to get on board is to have Obama basically in Congress, arm twisting, making sure all of those Republicans ultimately go over to the side and voting for START.
Alright, well, if we win that the GOP likes our plan, proceeds it, like, what does that mean?
I mean, you're probably not going to win that. Our Rodriguez evidence is really, really solid on this point. It says that the reason that we haven't adjusted admissions numbers in the past with Congress and the reason they're at stasis right now is because battles in Congress over any visa policy inevitably get so drawn out and so partisan. They just create tons of bickering. There are too many different constituencies. It just creates like a huge partisan fracture that would prevent the success of any other bill in the future.
Cool. On your T violation, what is your interpretation based off of?
What do you mean? What is our interpretation based off?
What is this article that you read? I'm sorry.
It's from the Department of State. It cites the people that are ineligible to receive visas right now. It's a reason that you should only be able to deal with those. You shouldn't be able to create a whole new category like your free in states V visas.
Okay, so beneficiary eligibility are these 10 things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people who are, ineligible for citizenship. I mean, how do we not apply for that?
I mean, the next part of our argument indicates that you have to expand it in one of the actual categories. You can't create a whole new category.
I mean,
read
what
another
part
part
of
of
your
my question
interpretation
too.
says that we can't create a new category? Plus, what is...
That's our UCSIS evidence.
Also, what part of your interpretation actually states that we do in fact create a new program? You yourself just said you reinstate.
Look, when I see cross-X, you make the argument that you reinstate the program because it's not applicable right
How is
now.
that a creation of a new program? If the tenants are still in place, how is that a creation?
You can't create, I don't know how I can say this in any other way.
All right,
In your category.
okay, cool. In your interpretation, are family apps topical?
Perhaps if they're for visas that already exist, not ones that existed in the past and that you'd have to reinstate
Why?
in the
Like
future.
your interpretation doesn't
You can also
list off
get rid of
visas.
one
Hold
of
on, your interpretation doesn't list off visas. Why are family visas okay, but
You
ours
can
isn't?
get rid of one of the ineligibilities for people applying to a visa. So you could get rid of the requirement that, or get rid of the idea that people can't come in from a terrorist state, and then read a family visa AF with relations with those
So it has to be
countries.
specific to
as
the
advantage.
reason as to why they're excluded from citizenship.
Yes, you have to get rid of one of the ineligibilities that exist in the statute.